Hey guys. For those of you who know me, you know what I've been dealing with, and those of you who don't, well, here's a quick review. I've been having some back issues, and during this last episode, I actually had to use a remote desktop method of recording the game. Unfortunately, the audio did not take. So y'all aren't gonna have all the awesome jokes and stuff that were told last week. But at least we'll be able to, go over some of the stuff that happened. I'll give y'all like a little more detailed recap of everything that was going on and just kind of give you not a full episode of everything, but that way you know what happened and you can kind of keep up and you won't be lost on the next episode when I do a full recording. So, here goes. So, when we last left off, our adventurers were in Clear Apple. They stayed the night at an inn and were waking up the next morning prepared to travel back to Cardell Fortress with a shipment of apples that they had traded a shipment of cantaloupes for. When they arose in the morning and went to the stables, they found a young man who was very insistent on going with them to ensure the apples got to their destination safely and without any shenanigans. More or less, the party agreed to let him come along. Before they began their journey, they took the canvas off of the cart, and one of them noticed that on the inside of this cart was an inscription in blood that said, "I know what you did." Well, when the newcomer saw this, he freaked out and he said, "What did you do?" And they kind of brushed it off. After the adventurers had glossed over what they had done, he just kind of went with it. And upon closer inspection, they found out that this inscription was magical and it was an illusion of sorts. So someone had put this here, but they don't know exactly when. So they searched the stables to no avail. Soon after, they set out to Cardell Fortress. They don't want to waste daylight after all. On their way out to Cardell Fortress, before they even reached the midpoint, they were ambushed by more bandits. This time, they seemed a little more organized than the last group, and a little bit weaker, which they had noted aloud. With a keen eye on the road, Archibald spotted our bandits. Suffice to say, they did not have the drop on them this time. They were ready. Jazzy quickly stepped up to the first bandit he could see, and he hexed him, and then stabbed him mercilessly with his rapier. The rapier went clean through, skewering the bandit. He was the first one fallen on his knees. Tesselot took out his spear and strategically placed himself in the center of the front row of bandits, careful not to get too close, and jabbed at one of them from 10 feet away. Next in line was Archibald, and he took out his crossbow and shot one of the bandits in the far distance clear through the neck and landed him right on the spot. Up next, we have the fabulous Shamong. Shamong decided to light them up and cast his fairy fire. Unfortunately, out of the 3 bandits that he targeted, only one of them was able to light up, but when he did, he was a bright, glowing red fire around him. Our newest party member, who the party has come to know as Lucien, was tempted to cast grease, but then he realized perhaps that wasn't the best idea. He changed his mind on the spot and immediately tossed out a firebolt. Unfortunately, the firebolt fell short, sizzling at the bandit's feet. After everyone had gone, it was the bandits' turn. There were only 4 left. Just before the bandits took action, Lucien tried to warn them against it, to no avail. The bandits began backing away and drawing back on their crossbows, all aiming at Tesselot, who stood out in front. The first one missing, and the second one might have hit if it weren't for Shamong's cunning insult to distract him. The third one landed the blow. Fortunately, he was the only one that hit. And with that, Jazzy charged into the front lines, going after the bandits who seemed to be backing out. It was then that the party started planning on singling out the one that wasn't as close to the others and keeping him alive for questioning later. And with that, Tesselot also joined Jazzy up front, pulling out his spear, skewering another bandit where he stood. Archibald stepped up and began mocking the bandits viciously, quite successfully, injuring their morale. Shamong advanced as well, and successfully managed to bane their future captive. Lucian also targeted their future captive, casting grease underneath him to prevent him from getting away. The future captive, realizing his fate, decided to try to get away, but slogging through a pit of grease made it quite difficult, so he didn't get far. The next remaining bandit backed away and fired a deadly shot straight for Jazzy, who was the closest to him. The last bandit, being in melee range, whipped out his scimitar and whiffed right over Jazzy's head. In turn, Jazzy jabbed his rapier straight through the bandit's heart, killing him instantly. Immediately followed by Tesselot going after the second bandit and brutally skewering the last one before their captive. In his frustration, he skewered him a few more times. Once he was certain the bandit was dead, he ran up to their future captive to stand in his way and prevent him from going any further. And with that, Archibald spoke up and convinced the bandit to stand down and drop his weapons so they could question him. He gave some information freely, but not a lot of details, especially in terms of how many bandits there were in total. He didn't really know. During their interrogation, the party found out that there is a bandit gang, and they are working for someone. They don't know who, but they're determined to find out. The party attempted to convince the bandit to divulge information about the camp's whereabouts. Unfortunately, the bandit was tight-lipped and wouldn't divulge the bandit camp information, especially where they were located. When he proved difficult on this matter, Archibald used a trick to detect his thoughts as they were questioning him about the location. With his mind centered on the location of the bandit camp, Archibald could clearly see that there was a camp somewhere south of his hometown. He saw a forested outcrop with at least a dozen bandits and what looked like their leader. The party took their time questioning their captive and took a short rest while Jazzy buried the rest of the bandits in shallow graves, as he did with the other group. Not to mention the party relieving the bandits of their weapons and armor. After a quiet night at the midpoint, the party managed to make it safely back to Cardell Fortress. When they returned, they noticed that it was oddly quiet when they got into town, and upon going into the general shop, they were met with a note saying that they would see them at the temple. The party followed suit to the temple, finding most of the village there, along with what appeared to be grieving families. As the party entered the temple, they drew a bit of attention, notably Elgon, who met with the party in the back, and then outside to have a quiet conversation. Here is where the party introduced the bandit captive to Elgon. Elgon explained to the party that the parents were grieving over their children, which they blamed the bandits for, given their rise in activity. And upon seeing this bandit, Elgon became furious, and he dragged the bandit into the temple. It upset the parents, so much so that they had to prevent a father from getting up and strangling the bandit himself. But they calmed him down quickly, and Elgon had Melody cast hold person on the bandit to imprison him right where he stood. As the party approached, they looked over at the ones that were being grieved over. They recognized them. It seems that the people they encountered on the road the first day were not bandits, but were the children who were aspiring young adventurers, probably out for the first time. Feeling a bit awkward about the whole situation, the party excused themselves. Elgon and the parents proposed that the party hunt down the murderer of their children. They offered the party a handsome sum to bring proof of the bandits' demise. The group decided to think it over a bit and went with Gerald back to the general store to sell their looted goods. They purchased a party suite for the night and spent some time discussing their plans for the future. They were clearly not very comfortable with staying, as they were wanted criminals, if only in their eyes. They agreed to take the job to hunt down the bandits. The The party began exploring their options of what they would do after they dealt with the bandits. They decided maybe they'll go to Beechhurst, or perhaps the beach, or maybe they'll find somewhere else just as interesting. They're not quite sure. They just know that they want to take care of these bandits and get away from Cardell Fortress. The next morning, the party emerged from the castle, only to be met with the captive bandit standing in the middle of the courtyard, drenched in the morning rain, still held imprisoned by a hold person spell. With most of the party being casters, they understood what they faced if they stayed here. With there being other casters, likely stronger than them throughout the fortress, they decided it was a risk not worth taking. With that, they made their last trip to the general store to make sure they had everything they needed for this bandit trip, and headed out. Their plan was that they would take the road to Wilderose and stop at the midway point. From there, they would go into the forest, south of Wilderose, Archibald's hometown, and they would track down these bandits and bring back proof that they had destroyed them all. At least, that's what they hope. And this is where the party has left off. I just want to say thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this series.